Hey guys. Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone who commented on the last video. It was reassuring to know that I was making the right decision for myself, but it was also something that you guys supported. I feel like a weight has been lifted off of me, and now I can just go forward with this channel doing what I love, and I don't have to worry about what I'm putting on here and if it's right. And anyway, thank you. So today I wanted to talk with you about, first of all, what's thriving in my tropical garden, and talk about the next steps for the tropical garden. I spent the last 4 days cleaning up the cottage garden, and I'm only going to give you a sneak preview because you got to watch that video to see the before and the during and the after. Hopefully it'll be a really satisfying video. I know it was to make. But the cottage garden is pretty much the only garden that is, you know, for the most part, finished. A garden is never finished. It's always going to grow and evolve, and you're going to tweak things. In fact, I did a video a couple back on my mistakes that I made with that cottage garden, and what I'm doing to kind of tweak all that and make sure everything's right. Now, of course, the vegetable garden is finished, and that just renews every year. And the vineyard is finished, but of course, that's going to take at least 3 years for it to produce grapes. But those two are just part of the Mediterranean garden as a whole, which I will be working a little bit more on over the next month. In fact, that's probably the next big project you're going to see. And that would basically be a 9-foot deep bed from this outer edge of the patio here. We're going to dig all this out 9 feet in. It's going to match the curve of the patio. And that's going to be a lavender bed surrounded by a rosemary hedge. And there will be 4 Italian cypress, miniature Italian cypress, 8 to 10 feet tall. This is one of them, in case you don't know what an Italian cypress is. But once we've got the bed dug and my rosemary cuttings that I took several months ago, once those are kind of in, which should be in the next couple of weeks, then we're moving on to working on the tropical garden. And mainly because it's kind of in this limbo area. It was the first area we worked on. If you remember, this patio cover didn't always look like this. When we moved in, it was just a flat roof right across this beam right here. And then we added on all this top portion. That was the first project we did because it was the roof was actually rotting away. The deck underneath still was in good condition, but it wasn't going to last very long. So we did that first. So from there over to here, we have our banana walk. And this, believe it or not, 1 year ago, almost exactly, these bananas were about 3 feet tall. If you see the green cord on either side, it turns down that way. And on this side, there's going to be a bunch of green. I'm putting a lot of banana trees in here because they grow fast and they multiply fast. And they're going to be tall enough to cover everything over there. And we've now got a jungle with plenty of bananas on the way. Those should be ready in 4 to 6 months. Then up from the banana walk, we've got our Monstera deliciosa bed, which I planted from the Monsteras from my last property, and they have taken over and gone nuts. We've got, for those of you who grow these as houseplants and didn't know, they can fruit. And we've got about 20 fruits on here. And then I've seen over the past few days, there's 3 more there, we've got more fruit coming on all throughout this whole bed. Now, if you had no idea they fruit and you want to know what they taste like, well, I can't give you a taste, but I did a video at my last house when the first one I ever had fruited. I'll put a link to that down below. Then about a year ago, I dug this bed out of this patio is basically gravel and decomposed granite, and it's about 6 to 8 inches thick. So I had to dig all that out and fill it with compost. And then I planted cannas and taro or colocasias, ginger. And then this blank area in the middle of that, this whole area here, from this point to this point and all this way, that's gonna be a natural pool or pond, however you wanna look at it, swimming pond, with some rock work in the background that will basically be like what I had at my last house, just on a little bit bigger scale. As with everything I do, I try to live with a space for a bit and try to imagine what that could look like or how I could do it. And then I usually make a drawing. I made a drawing at our last house of a gazebo and water feature that I was putting in. I made a drawing of this patio cover, even though I made two different drawings, and I kind of melded them, and it ended up being something between the two. When we were going to be doing the cottage, I made a drawing of that, and this space is no different. This is the goal, and as you can see, basically this pond is where I just showed you it would be. All of this lava rock is going to be where this horseshoe is. So these plants are basically here as a nursery just to grow them and multiply them. That horseshoe will be replaced by lava rock with planting areas in them. And then in the center, some waterfalls to, number one, just add to the tropical space. But also we have a road that's back here behind us. It's not a busy road. On certain mornings, it's busy because there's some nurseries along here, and so there's trucks delivering and taking things away. But that waterfall will kind of be a nice white noise to block out the road noise. Plus, for me, I had a lot of water at my last house. And for me, the sound of water is just something that completes a garden for me. A garden is not complete unless I can hear running water. And that could be huge waterfalls, or it could be a fountain or a little bird bath with, just a tiny little fountain. And it doesn't matter to me. As long as I can hear the trickle of water, it makes me that much more happy about being in the space that I'm in. So what I'm doing behind here with the banana walk, these bananas have multiplied like crazy. I did a video on these bananas specifically, I think it was on Next Level Gardening, just a few months ago, and I thinned all these banana spots, these banana I don't know what you call them, clumps of bananas back to 3. And now you can see, there's no longer just 3. They're coming up all over the place. In all of these groups, you can see new ones coming up. And that's the great thing about tropical plants, is they multiply like crazy. I'm also going to be showing you guys who don't live in a mild winter climate like we do here, how you can bring that tropical flair even to your garden, whether you live on the East Coast, the Northeast, the Midwest. There are tropicals that you can grow, and there are ways to do it even if you have cold winters. But anyway, I'm going to take the bananas that are being propagated in there automatically, and I'm going to continue this beautiful lush green backdrop all the way around to right there. So you'll see, the water feature here and whatever plants I have in front of that, and that will just be a nice jungly backdrop behind there. Now it will be anchored on both sides by plumeria. Here's one right here. Gorgeous, but also beautifully scented. I made sure that I got the fastest growing varieties. So I've got one here and one over here. So one there, one over here. We'll also have palm trees sticking up in certain locations. I've got giant bird of paradise already back mixed in with the bananas. They'll be growing even taller and give an additional form of structure and texture to the backdrop. There's a rubber tree back here. That I brought from my last house. I was expecting it to grow faster. However, I didn't realize that the drip on it was clogged, and so it wasn't getting watered for quite a while. So as you can see in the picture, we've got the pond here, and then we've got like a boardwalk going across there, and then this dark area behind it. So the boardwalk will start here at the stairs, and it will head out from this point, about 6 feet wide, from this point to this point, over to that opening there. And then behind that on this side is either going to be stamped concrete or grass. I haven't decided yet. And then we've got this tree here planted in the middle, which the name escapes me at the moment, so I'll put it on the screen. I always forget. Ugh! It's got caterpillars. There's been a couple of caterpillars just eating all the new growth on here, and I thought I got them off yesterday, but there was one more. Anyway, the plan is for this to grow up and be a canopy over this half of the tropical section, and this is where we will have tables. This is basically our main entertaining space. Anytime we have a gathering, the chairs and tables go out here because it's right off of the house and the kitchen. And now I want to talk to you about something I've never talked with you about because I didn't even know that it would be a possibility here. I never even thought about it until I needed to figure out what I was going to do with the pasture once Clover and Daisy move on to their much larger, greener pasture. So walking down here through the banana walk, I'm going to show you my plans. They're tentative right now, and they're not going to happen immediately. There's everybody having breakfast. That's why you don't hear any mooing from Daisy, because she's eating. So we've got a few minutes to get this done without interruption. Now, I know a lot of you were trying to give helpful advice on what her incessant mooing might be caused by. She's not in heat. That was one of the main ones. When cows are in heat, it's like a 24 to 48 hour period, not 3 weeks straight. She definitely doesn't miss me. In fact, since Clover's been born, she has distanced herself from any of us. She used to let us pet her, and that was just off limits once Clover was born. I'm not really sure why. Clover doesn't like us being around. So, like I said, it is making it easier to come to the conclusion of what we need to do with them. And I've made my peace with it. I'm still going to be sad when they leave. But, you know, we have decided, and you guys, I haven't heard one person say we're doing the wrong thing. And I'm also, thanks to you guys, I'm looking at it in a whole different way, because there were several of you who wrote in and you said that, you know, you were considering this, but you didn't know if it was doable. And I showed you that it's not doable. So you didn't have to take that blind leap of faith and then come to this situation a couple years later like we're having to do. And so I'm using it as a learning experience for me, passing that on to you. And I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it. We had some great times with Daisy. The birth was miraculous and something that I will never forget. But, you know, ultimately, this isn't the best place for them. So moving forward, what we're going to do is we are going to take this new corral area down. It's no longer needed. We're going to reuse the wood, and we're going to take where the front of this corral is. We're going to extend the fence all the way down to the chain link fence over there. And now the corral and everything behind the corral will be where the sheep can hang out. And that's going to leave me this entire 1/4 acre to do something new with. So since it's basically an overlook from the banana walk, I decided that this is going to be my new tropical fruit forest, fruit orchard, where we will grow avocados, citrus, passion fruit, even a mango, star fruit, maybe. I tried them in Hawaii. They're not the greatest, so probably not. That would be like a novelty thing. Cherimoyas. There's more. I'm just forgetting. But basically, that will be in this area here. What we're going to do is on the chain link fence that runs down the lane, I'm planting passion fruit. I've already got 5 that I bought a couple of weeks ago. And those 5 passion fruits will cover this entire fence all the way from basically right there all the way down. We had a passion fruit vine at my last house, just one. And after about 3 years, it was 30 feet wide and probably 10 feet tall. So that's going to cover that area there. And then, now I'm up high right here. Down below, that'll cover, people driving up the lane or from the main street will not be able to see in here. But then to kind of cover the houses back there, I'm going to be planting more banana clumps, and those grow like crazy. So within a year, that will just be a completely tropical backdrop, and that will leave this entire center section here for tropical fruit. So I wish I would have known that that was going to be there. Of course, there was no way of knowing because I planted like all these dragon fruit here and pineapple. And then this is a white sapote, which I'm hoping it's tall enough now, old enough. We planted this the first after 2 months of living here. So it's been here for 4 years. They bloom in the fall, and the fruit tastes like, it's the consistency, this is how I would describe it at least. It's the consistency of an avocado, but the flavor of like a pineapple, strawberry, very tropical flavor. You guys told me in the comments of the last 2 videos that your favorite part of these videos is when I'm walking around showing you my thought process on what I'm doing and how I'm planning things out. So you get what you asked for. So now I'm down here in the future tropical fruit forest, and there's a slope the whole way, which is good because any cold air will flow out to the street in the wintertime. But basically the trees would be on the really steep sloped area, and then down here about right here to about over there, this is going to be just a tropical sun garden. The garden that I'm doing up above with the waterfall and everything, that's going to be a lot of shade. And there are some sunny things that I would love to grow, more plumerias, different tropical plants, hibiscus. I love all those things, and I've never had a sunny tropical garden. So right there. In a couple of months, I think it's going to be this fall, I want to build a hoop house, and that's probably going to go right here where this extra portion of the corral went. But there's some tropicals that are iffy in our climate here. We rarely get frost, but if it does happen, there are certain things that are too tender to handle that. And so I'd love to be able to have those in pots and be able to just put them in there for like, what, December, January. That's pretty much, if we have any frost, it's going to be in that period. I'm so looking forward to this. I'm hoping to start with Joel on the waterfall within the month. And I know at my last house, I got so many questions about the lava rock that I built the water feature with, and then areas around the garden. And that was before I had a YouTube channel. And so I didn't have it on camera. And ultimately, if you're a DIY type person, it's way easier than you would ever think. So I'm going to show you the process, of course, and just what we get up to the whole way through. Again, after the last video, I am pumped, probably more than I have been since I first started this channel. I have a direction. I'm not confused about what's going to happen. I don't feel like I have to balance content or compete with content from Next Level Gardening. No, I'm feeling good. So I'm glad you guys are here. I'm hoping you stick with me and just join me on this whole process. We got a lot still to do. I was asked if the water wheel mill garden with pond is going to be still happening and the Japanese garden is still going to be happening. Absolutely yes. But the Japanese garden I'm saving till the very end. I feel like with everything going on around the house and outside that we're doing, I feel like everything is in a constant state of construction. And when I start the Japanese garden, it's going to be like a really peaceful place. And I want everything at least started and laid out and started all around it before we actually get to doing that. And I also would love to be able to hire somebody that designs Japanese gardens, there's a lot of nuances to Japanese gardens that make them what they are. It's not just some pine trees and a koi pond. There's measurements and groupings and objects that all interplay together that make the feeling. If you've been to a good Japanese garden, you know there's a feeling there. And so I want to know that the main part of the budget that we have has been used wisely for everything else. And then at that point, put that in. But I love Japanese gardens so much, and I can't wait to have one. It's been on my plan for years. But if gardening teaches you anything, especially what I'm doing here, it's patience. We're also going to need to drill a well eventually. Like I said, watering this pasture was $600 last month. That's why it's dead looking now, because I was like, that's not happening. And so before we do anything with a lot of water, such as this huge pond here that the mill will be in back of, I can't use city water to fill that. Now it will fill, if there's a liner in there, which there will be, it will fill probably at least half during the winter when we have good rain, maybe even the whole way, because that pond will collect water from the two properties above us and our property, and the lane that comes down and brings all their water through our property. The last several years, it has eroded away where the pasture is now. It's not going to do that anymore. It's going to collect in this pond and not only be beautiful, but have a use. So that was like everything I can think of in my brain for this tropical garden and its future, to pass that on to you. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.